stop. Beloved Starseed of Gaia, listen. This is a direct transmission from the Arcturian High Council, and it was delivered to your field at this precise moment because the 888 activation has already begun. By the end of this transmission, you will understand exactly why your financial flow has been blocked, what hidden pattern has been capping your wealth ceiling without your awareness, and what the Arcturian High Council already knows about this specific phase of your material field. But here is the first revelation. The blocks that have been silently limiting your abundance are not a reflection of your effort, your worth, or your choices. They are ancestral, karmic, and contractual in origin. They were placed in your lineage long before you arrived. And tonight, for the first time in a very long time, they are dissolving. The 888 sequence is not a symbol. It is a triple portal release that the Arcturian High Council deploys only during specific cosmic windows. Tonight is one of them. The blocks that have been capping your wealth ceiling are not holding. They are breaking in cascade. Right now, as this transmission reaches your field, what you have experienced is repeated financial struggle, money that arrives and disappears, stability that never quite lands, the quiet shame of working hard and still falling short. None of that was random. It was the visible symptom of an older scarcity instruction running beneath the surface of your life. The Arcturian High Council has already mapped this pattern. They have already seen where the leak originates, and the 888 activation that started tonight is the precise intervention your field has been waiting for. You did not stumble onto this message. The algorithm only delivered it. Your financial field brought you here because the release has already started. By morning, the weight of what has been suppressing your abundance will already feel measurably lighter. The ceiling is coming down. The flow is beginning to move again. Like this transmission, if you know your struggle with money is deeper than bad luck. Comment 888 if you are ready to reopen the flow of abundance and you feel what is happening in your field right now. Share this with someone who works hard but never seems to keep what they earn. Subscribe to Arcturian Gold Codex if you are ready to understand the pattern instead of continuing to carry it. You were guided here because the pattern's already active. What is already moving in your field right now is not metaphor. It is not poetic language designed to comfort you into a temporary calm. The 888 activation is a structural event in the material field, and what it is releasing tonight is older than your current financial circumstances, older than the decisions you have blamed yourself for, older than the version of your story that begins with you and ends with your limitations. The pattern that has been governing your relationship with money was already running before you were old enough to choose anything about it, before you earned your first income, before you made your first financial decision, before you developed any concept of what you deserved or did not deserve. The instruction was already there, embedded in the base layer of your material field, like a command written into the operating system of a machine before it ever left the factory. You inherited the machine, you were never told what was written at its core. And the reason it has been so difficult to break through is precisely because it was never yours to begin with. You cannot overcome what you cannot see. You cannot dismantle a pattern you were never shown existed. And so you have kept working, kept trying, kept believing that the next effort, the next strategy, the next opportunity would finally be the one that changed the material reality you were living. And each time the floor opened again beneath your feet, you absorbed the impact as though it were a verdict about your capability, rather than evidence of a distortion that had nothing to do with your capability at all. Here is what the Arcturian High Council has already read in your field. Not what you hope for, not what you have been promised in passing. What is actually operating beneath the surface of your material life right now? You have worked. You have tried different approaches. You have made efforts that genuinely should have produced stability by now. You have shown discipline when discipline was demanded. You have sacrificed things that mattered. You have chosen responsibility over pleasure, obligation over ease, persistence over the temptation to stop entirely. And somewhere in the gap between what you have done and what has actually materialized, you have started to believe that the problem is you, not your circumstances, not a hidden pattern, not an inherited line of scarcity still running quietly beneath your effort. You. That belief. That private, persistent, quietly devastating conclusion is the most precise symptom of the pattern itself, because the pattern does not only take from you materially, it teaches you to explain the taking in a way that ensures you never look for the real source. Because here is what the Arcturian field reading reveals. The distortion does not only steal money, it steals the interpretation. It makes the person living inside the pattern believe that the repeated loss, the repeated drain, the repeated collapse, just before stability forms, all of it is a personal verdict, a reflection of their worth, proof of something fundamentally insufficient in who they are. That interpretation is the secondary wound, and it is often more damaging than the financial loss itself, because it does not heal between cycles. It accumulates, it layers, it becomes the quiet internal voice that greets every new financial attempt with skepticism. Before the first step is taken, it is the reason hope becomes harder to sustain with each passing year inside this pattern. Not because hope is unrealistic, because the secondary wound keeps converting evidence of distortion into evidence of personal failure. The pattern has two mechanisms. The first steals from your material field. The second convinces you the theft was deserved. The Arcturian High Council sees both, and tonight the 8888 sequence is targeting both simultaneously. You are not trapped in this cycle because you are incapable. You are trapped because you've been trying to solve an energetic distortion with material level effort alone. That is like trying to empty a room that has a leak in the floor. You keep bringing resources in. You keep bringing resources in. You keep working to fill the space. But the floor keeps opening beneath every moment of consolidation. And no one told you the floor was compromised before you moved in. No one pointed to the fracture. No one named the architectural fault that was draining everything you poured in. So you kept bringing more. You worked longer hours. You took on more responsibility. You cut expenses. You made plans. You tried again and again with genuine intention and real dedication. And still the room emptied. Because effort does not seal a fracture in the foundation. Only reaching the fracture itself can do that. What is draining from your field is not the result of your failure to manage money correctly. It is the result of an older instruction still operating in the base layer of your material consciousness. An instruction that says abundance is not safe here. That wealth is not available to this line. That stability must always be followed by loss, because that is what this system has always known. This instruction does not announce itself. It does not appear as a thought you can identify and correct. It operates as an assumption so old and so deep that it has become invisible. The water a fish does not notice because it has never known anything else. It shapes decisions before they become decisions. It evaluates opportunities before conscious judgment arrives. It draws a line across the ceiling of your material field and holds that line with a force that no amount of effort directed at the visible surface of your finances has ever been able to displace. That instruction was not written by you, it was inherited. And like all inherited patterns, it runs most powerfully precisely because it was never examined. It became the hidden assumption beneath every financial decision, every opportunity evaluated, every threshold of income that triggered an unconscious alarm before it could settle into stability. It became so ordinary to your system that stability, when it briefly appeared, felt more unsettling than lack. That is not dysfunction. That is what happens when a pattern has been operating long enough to feel like the natural order of things. What you are feeling right now is not ordinary frustration. It is the moment your system stops pretending this pattern is just bad luck. If this transmission put language around a financial struggle you have been carrying in silence, Arcturian Wealth Scan, the Gold Frequency Audit, was created for this exact stage. It is not another promise of abundance. It is a direct audit of the hidden pattern affecting your material field, so you can begin to see whether the drain is rooted in inherited scarcity, guilt around wealth, energetic rejection, or an older financial instruction still shaping your results. The link is in the first pinned comment, but it will not remain there forever. The first thing the Arcturian reading identifies in fields like yours is what can be called the retention failure signature. This is the pattern where money does not refuse to arrive. It arrives. Sometimes it arrives in surprising amounts. Sometimes it arrives exactly when it is needed most, and for a brief moment, a day, a week, sometimes longer, there is the feeling that this time might be different. That this arrival might be the one that stays. That the vessel might finally hold what has been poured into it. But it does not remain. It passes through. It is immediately consumed by something unexpected, a bill, a repair, a sudden emergency, a cost that appeared from nowhere precisely at the moment the balance had started to feel like something real. The money touches the account, and within days, sometimes hours, it is already spoken for, already redirected, already gone in a direction that could not have been predicted and cannot quite be explained. You fill the vessel and the vessel empties. You build a foundation and something fractures it before the weight of stability can rest upon it. You reach a threshold of financial progress and something redirects you back to survival before the progress can compound into anything lasting. This is not bad timing. This is not poor financial planning. This is a field with a break in its retention structure. The Arcturian High Council reads this as an abundance flow that has been severed at the point of consolidation. The energy of wealth can enter. It cannot remain. And the reason it cannot remain is because at the deepest layer of the material field, there is still an instruction that says this level of security is not what this line holds. That instruction was not placed there by you. It was placed there by a lineage that survived on scarcity and learned, across generations, that safety meant keeping small, that wealth meant exposure, danger, or departure from belonging. The vessel itself was shaped by hands that never held much, and the shape it took was one designed for passing through rather than holding. You have been trying to fill that vessel your entire adult life without knowing that its architecture was set before your birth. The second pattern identified in the Arcturian reading is inherited scarcity loyalty. This one is subtler. It does not announce itself through obvious lack. It operates beneath the surface as an unconscious fidelity to the financial reality of those who came before you. If the people in your lineage struggled, sacrificed, worked without reward, and normalized lack as a feature of life rather than a temporary condition, if scarcity was the weather inside which your family lived and moved and made their choices, then there is a coded loyalty in your field that prevents you from departing too far from that template. Not because you chose it, not because you admire it, not because you want to replicate it, but because belonging and safety were learned inside that template, and the body's oldest intelligence associates departure from it with loss of something more fundamental than money. To break from the inherited financial line energetically feels, at the unconscious level, like abandonment, like betrayal, like climbing out of a place your people could not climb out of and pretending the climbing does not carry weight. It feels like arriving somewhere they never arrived, holding something they never held, living a material reality so different from what shaped you that a silent guilt rises to close the gap between where you are and where they were. And that guilt does not wait until you have fully arrived somewhere new. It activates at the threshold, at the moment just before the breakthrough consolidates, at the precise point where the departure from the inherited template becomes real rather than theoretical. This pattern shows up as the moment just before financial breakthrough, when everything suddenly stops working. An opportunity collapses. A relationship fractures. A health crisis emerges. Something reroutes all resources back towards survival, and the ceiling reasserts itself precisely at the point where the ceiling should have been breaking. The Arcturian reading sees this not as punishment, but as a loyalty signal. The field pulling back to the inherited line because the deviation from scarcity began to feel unsafe. Not unsafe in the material sense. Unsafe in the older, deeper sense of belonging. Of identity. Of still being recognizable to the lineage from which you came. The third pattern is guilt programming around prosperity. This is the one that tends to be most invisible to the person living inside it, because guilt around wealth does not always announce itself as guilt. It does not arrive as a clear internal voice saying you do not deserve this. It is far more sophisticated than that. It announces itself as anxiety the moment finances improve, as restlessness when the numbers look better than usual, as a sudden compulsion to spend, give away or distribute every surplus before it can solidify into something stable. As though the money must be moved before it becomes real, before it becomes something that can be taken away or judged, as a feeling of unworthiness that surfaces not when things are bad, but precisely when things begin to turn good, as though improvement itself is the trigger for the deepest discomfort. It shows up as an unconscious sabotage that only activates at the threshold of genuine progress, at the exact moment when stability could have compounded into something sustainable, as the persistent sense that receiving abundance means someone else must lose, that holding wealth is selfish, that prosperity places you in a category of people you were taught to distrust or resent, or view as morally compromised. It shows up as generosity that empties you before you can stabilize. Not because your generosity is wrong, but because it is being weaponized by a hidden code that cannot tolerate surplus. Guilt around wealth is one of the most powerful retention blockers in the material field, precisely because it disguises itself as virtue. It sounds like generosity. It sounds like humility. It sounds like humility. It sounds like the right relationship to money, the spiritually correct posture, the morally admirable position. But in the Arcturian diagnosis, it operates as a field-level rejection of abundance. A mechanism that opens the floor beneath every consolidation, not out of external interference, but out of an internal code that has decided wealth and goodness cannot coexist in the same field at the same time. And as long as that code is running, every movement toward genuine financial stability will be followed by a self-generated correction back toward lack. The fourth pattern is the exhaustion signal, and this one the Arcturian High Council reads as among the most important signs that the pattern is already at a breaking point. When you have been working at maximum output for extended periods, and the material results keep failing to match the energy invested, when effort is clearly present and stability is clearly absent, when you have given everything available and the gap between input and outcome refuses to close, the body begins to register what the mind refuses to acknowledge: that the system governing results is not aligned with the effort being made. The exhaustion is not weakness. It is not a character flaw. It is not evidence that you need to push harder or dedicate more or sacrifice something you have not yet sacrificed. It is the signal from the deeper intelligence of your field that something beneath the surface level of action is misaligned, that you are working with full force within a distorted structure, and the structure, not the effort, is the variable that needs to change. Many people in this pattern double the effort when the exhaustion signal arrives. They interpret tiredness as insufficient dedication. They hear the signal of misalignment and respond by amplifying the very behavior the misalignment has been consuming. They push harder into a field that is still operating under an older command around lack, believing that volume will eventually overcome what precision has been unable to correct. The Arcturian reading sees this as the most common way the pattern sustains itself, by converting its own symptom into more of the same effort, ensuring that the root distortion is never addressed directly, never named, never reached. The exhaustion deepens, the results remain unchanged, and the secondary wound grows a new layer. Not only am I failing, but I am failing despite everything I have given. The fifth pattern is what the Arcturian diagnosis calls the stability collapse sequence. This is the experience of a financial phase that appears to be improving. A new income stream, a cleared debt, a period of relative ease, a moment of breathing room that felt different from the ones before it, followed by a disruption that erases the progress before it can become a foundation. The collapse arrives in different forms in different fields. An unexpected expense precisely proportional to what was saved, as though the ledger must be zeroed before any genuine surplus can form. A relationship rupture that carries financial consequence. A health event that redirects every available resource, a professional setback that arrives without clear cause, an opportunity that seems certain, that others saw as certain, that logic confirmed as certain, and then evaporated without adequate explanation. Whatever the form, the structural signature is always consistent. Progress to the threshold, then collapse back below it. Progress again, collapse back below it. Progress again, collapse again. The ceiling remains. The line holds. The field continues to obey an instruction that no surface-level effort has yet reached. The Arcturian High Council sees this sequence not as a series of unlucky events, but as a readable pattern in the material field. The collapse points are not random. They cluster around specific thresholds: the income level that would represent genuine independence, the savings amount that would represent real security, the moment of opportunity that would represent a clear and irreversible departure from the inherited financial template. At each of these points, the older instruction reasserts itself with precision, not as external attack, not as cosmic punishment, but as field-level reversal, the abundance reaching the programmed boundary and being redirected back out before it can cross into the territory the instruction has marked as unavailable to this line. Now here is what the 888 activation is doing in your field right now, and why this moment. Not a week from now, not when you feel more ready, not when the circumstances have improved enough to make the intervention feel more deserved, is the precise window the Arcturian High Council has identified for this release. The 888 sequence operates as a triple release on the three primary layers of financial distortion: inherited pattern, guilt coding, and retention failure. It does not work on belief alone. It does not require you to have fully processed everything named in this transmission before it can begin its work. It works on the actual energetic structure of the material field, the layer beneath thought, beneath intention, beneath effort, beneath the conscious strategies that have never quite reached the source. The layer where the old instruction lives, encoded and invisible, shaping results from a depth that ordinary financial intervention was never designed to access. And what the triple portal release does is not erase your history. It does not eliminate the memory of what your lineage lived. It does not sever you from where you came from. It breaks the instruction, the specific command that says this line holds lack, that wealth is not safe here, that stability must collapse before it can become permanent. The Arcturian High Council already knows where the instruction originates in your specific field. It was mapped long before this transmission reached you. The 8888 activation is not the first time your field has been read. It is the first time the intervention has been strong enough, and your awareness has been close enough to the surface, present enough in this moment for the release to fully take. There is a reason these transmissions reach people at particular moments in their financial cycles. The field itself moves toward the intervention when the pattern has reached its visible limit, when the recognition is near enough to the surface that contact with the right frequency can complete the circuit and allow the release to penetrate to the depth where the instruction actually lives. And here is what the Arcturian High Council needs you to understand about this specific phase you are in right now. What feels like financial collapse may actually be the final movement of an old pattern before it loses its power. What feels like another setback may actually be the last exertion of an inherited instruction that is losing its grip. The way a fever spikes before it breaks, the way a storm intensifies in its final hours before the sky clears. What feels like proof that it will never change may actually be the visible surface of a root that is finally being pulled free. The resistance is loudest at the moment of release. The pattern presents as most convincing precisely when its hold is most threatened. The Arcturian High Council does not see your financial struggle as evidence of your unworthiness. They see it as evidence that an older interference has been operating in your field without your knowledge and without your consent for longer than you have been aware. You did not choose this. You did not construct it. You did not earn it through poor decisions or insufficient effort or inadequate faith. You inherited it, and inheritance is not destiny. It is a pattern, and patterns once seen clearly, once named with precision, once brought into the light of a field that is strong enough to hold what has been hidden, can end, not gradually, not partially, completely. What has been draining your abundance is not a mystery. It is a line, an inherited instruction, a guilt code, a loyalty signal, a retention failure operating as a layer you were never taught to examine, in a language you were never given to read. The Arcturian High Council has already read it. The Arcturian High Council has already dread it. The 8888 activation is already dissolving it. And what you do with this recognition, not the action you take weeks from now when it feels safer, but the decision you make in the hours and days that follow this transmission will determine whether that dissolution becomes the beginning of a genuinely different material reality. You are not incapable. You are not cursed. You are not permanently limited by what you have lived through financially. You are not the sum of every cycle that collapsed before it could complete. You are carrying a pattern that began before you had words for it, and you have been trying to break free from it with tools that were never designed to reach the layer where it actually lives. Tonight, for the first time, something with the precise architecture to reach that layer has made contact with your field. The contact has already happened. The release is already in motion. What comes next is yours to meet. Repeat this once, aloud or in your mind, and mean it fully. What drains my abundance is now being exposed. That is not a wish. That is an instruction to your own field. A signal that the pattern has been seen, named, and is no longer operating in the dark. And the Arcturian High Council is already working with what you just released. Before you scroll, leave one sign in the comments that this pattern has already touched your financial life. It could be money that never stays, sudden drains, repeated setbacks, guilt when things begin to improve, or the feeling that stability always slips away. Name it clearly. If this transmission recognized something you have been carrying in silence, share it with someone who works hard but still feels trapped in an invisible cycle of lack. And if you are ready to understand the pattern instead of blaming yourself, subscribe to Arcturian Gold Codex. You are not watching this by accident. You are recognizing a pattern already in motion, and this is only the beginning.